Let's break SQL down to its building block. Let's start by discussing what a table in SQL looks like. A table in SQL looks exactly the same way it looks in Excel, with rows and columns. So we have columns here, and I said another name that we can call the column is field. Another name that we can call the row is record. Columns define the type of data that we store. For example, this availability column is numeric, right? And this is a whole number, all right? This revenue generated is float. Okay, so each column defines the type of data stored. If you have forgotten the part where we talked about data type, now is the time to refresh your memory on it. And I'll also be giving you more data type tips specifically for SQL. Remember when we started, I told you about the different data type that we have, right? I said this is a numeric data type, right? In SQL, I'll call it integer, all right? And if it has decimal points like this one, I'm going to call it decimal in SQL. So put that at the back of your mind. And for a column that contains letters like this, we remember that when we started the class, I told you that this column is string data type because it contains alphabets. In SQL, we are going to call it var_char. Var stands for variable and char stands for character. And row is like the actual data entry. It is an individual record. You can see this record belongs to this particular product. Now let's create our first table using SQL. We are going to create a customer table that has 4 columns that contains the ID, name, age, and location of each customer. To create a table, you first have to work in a database. And you remember that we created a database in our last class, which we called My First DB. Okay, now we are going to open up a new query, which is like the text editor where we are going to be typing in the queries. You first come here to check. If you check this box and you see that you are in the master's database, then you can change it to the database that you want your table saved. Okay, I don't want to save my table in the master database. Master database means it will just be anywhere, so I may forget where I saved it and it will just give me so much headache. Instead of that, since I've created a database that I want to put in this table, I'll just come down here, click on the drop down and change it to whatever name I used to save my database. To create a table, you use a query that we call create table. You see, SQL is simple. It's just like you're speaking normal English. I just said that to create a table. And the query we are still using is create table. After you say create table, the next thing you want to specify is what name do you want to give your table. Okay, so the table is just like we have an Excel file right here. We saved this Excel file. I saved the workbook with prac_24. So what do we want to save the table to in SQL? That's just what it means. So let's say we want to save the table customers because I said it will contain customer details. So I'm going to specify the name of the table. After I specify the name of the table, I want to open a bracket. Inside this bracket, I'm going to type in the different columns that will be in my table. The first column is going to be the ID for each customer. Okay, for the ID now, we have to specify the data type. In SQL, you have to specify the data type for each of the columns that you want to create. You know, this ID is a numeric data type, and I told you in SQL we are going to call it int, which is also integer, right? But we use the short form int. And this name column contains alphabets, right? Normally we would call it string, but because we are working with SQL, we are going to call it var_char. And now we have the age column, which is numeric int, right? And location is also var_char. ID's data type will be integer. So in SQL, once you type your column name, you leave a space and then you type the data type for that particular column. Right? Once you're done doing that, you press comma and you can type it on the next line, or you can write everything in the same line. Okay, so I'm going to write it on the next line. The second column I want to create is for the name. Okay, and name will take the data type var_char. So whenever you're working with a string data type in SQL, more like varchar, it always takes a parameter inside it. Okay, so it will always have an open and close parenthesis and take a value inside it, which is represented as n. What is n? N is like the highest character that you want to allow for that particular column. Let me give you an example. If you are saying that in this column we want to have the names of customer, but we want to lay a restrictions that a customer, so let's say I type 10 inside this bracket. What I'm saying basically is if somebody's name is more than 10 character long, then the person will not be able to put in their name in this column. We are setting a limit to how long the character of the text you are putting in that column should be. The maximum is what we are putting in this bracket. But I advise that whenever you have like a string column, you should add the maximum that you know that even if somebody's name is as long as that, it can never get to that character long. So for this example, I'll use 255. I don't want to know how long your name is. I'm not sure you would have a name with 255 character long. Let's move to the next column that we are creating. We are creating a column for the age of our customers. So I'll put in age here. That's the column name. And the data type for the age will be integer, right? Lastly, we want to have location as another column. For the location now, what will be the data type? The data type will be varchar, and we can also use varchar 200. Let's use 200 in this case. And now we are done specifying all the columns that we want to have in our data set. We can proceed to close these brackets that we opened up here. We are creating a table. Our table name is called customers. We are going to have 4 columns in our table, which is the ID, customer name, age, and location. The ID will specify the data type for that column. The customer name will specify the data type for that column, and on and on. So you are done writing your query and everything is looking good. You can just proceed to run the query. So I'll just highlight this query and press execute. Instead of pressing execute, you can also press F5. That's just a shortcut instead of coming here every time. So I'll press execute here and it's going to execute my query. You can see now that the command completed successfully. That means that I already created a table successfully inside this database that I created. And now we can check. Okay, now let me expand this database because we have our table inside our database. Inside this database, you're going to see that we have a section for table. So you can create multiple tables inside one database, okay? And this is the section where you can check all the tables that you have in that database. Right here, you can see that under the tables in this database, we have dbo.customer. And this table icon is just showing us that this is a table inside this database. To see what our table looks like, you can write another query down here. You can select. Okay, so we use the select query to view a particular table. Okay, so we can select, and when I say asterisk, asterisk means that I want to see everything in that table. So I'm selecting, okay, show me. Select is like show me. Then this asterisk is like everything. So basically what I'm saying with this line is show me everything. Then SQL will now ask me that, where should I get what I want to show you from? Now I have to specify the table where it's going to show me from. So I'm going to say from this particular table right here. So I can say from customers. Let's recap what I did here. I said select, show me everything in the customers table. So let's run it and see what we have. If I run it right here, you can see that it showed me the table I created. Even though in the table I created, I only specified the table name and the column header. I did not put any value inside my table. How can we now add values into the tables that we created? So we are basically going to say insert into, all right? We are saying that we want to add values to something. After you say insert into, you now want to tell SQL what table you want to add values to. I want to say insert into customers. I'll open a bracket to specify the way I'm going to arrange the values. So for this value arrangement, I love to arrange it the way it is showing in my column header or the way I created it in my table. So I'm going to do ID first. You see ID comes first on this table that we created. followed by the customer name, right? Followed by the age, followed by the location. So I'm basically telling SQL that this is the format that I'll still use in presenting data that I give you. Then I'll go to the next line and specify the value now that I want to put inside. This is just stating the structure in which I'm going to type in my values. Now I want to type in the actual value. All right, so I'll open a bracket and specify the value. For my first customer, will be ID will be 1001 for that customer. The name is Tosin, age is 15, and location is Germany. So first we are going to type in the ID, which is 101. Afterwards, we'll type the customer name in a single quote because it is a string data type. Then you add a comma to it and specify the age, 15. And then you add a comma and specify the location. Because it is also a string data type, then it has to be in a single quote. Once you are done typing everything that you want to have in the first record, which is also the first row, you close your bracket and add a comma to it. Then you can move to the next line and add your next record. So we are just going to open up a bracket and specify the ID for the next customer, which is 1002, the name of the customer, the age, and the location of the customer. So you are just going to repeat this process for all of the customers' record that you have till you are done with it. Once you are done, once you get to the last customer, there's no need to add the comma after the close bracket anymore because comma is a sign of continuation. And once you get to the last person, last customer, there's no need to add a comma. Remember, you always need to run your query so it will be effective. So let's run it now. You can see 3 rows affected. And now we can run that same query to check our table. And now you can see that our table is now populated. It's looking exactly like what we have in Excel. Once you're done typing out, maybe you want to close your system for a while before you come back to it. Make sure to press Ctrl S to save the file. You'll be able to open the file and continue from where you stopped later on. Okay, so I'm just going to save this file. And that is all for today's class. I'll see you tomorrow and bye for now.